One.
Write that down, Fumi Saito. Write that down, Fumi Saito.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Write That Down. I'm your host, Justin Knipper. I'm editor at FightGameMedia.com, staff writer at WrestlingObserver.com and F4WOnline.com. Apologies for the unusual background noise today. I had to go back to New York for some family stuff. I'm en route back to California. I'm at the San Francisco airport right now. And to get this show to you on time, I have to record this in a United Airlines lobby. So that's where I am, and that's what the noise is, if you hear it. Otherwise, yes, I'm back with leading author, historian, editor, broadcast journalist, Oracle Professional Wrestling in Japan, Puroresu, Mr. Fumi Saito. Today, we'll kick off our first part of our next major profile legacy series, which focuses on Shohei Baba, known widely around the world as Giant Baba. Okay. In this dense first episode, we first talked about Baba's experience growing up in Niigata Prefecture in Japan, famous for skiing and lots of snow. And we talked about the onset of his acromegaly in early fifth grade. Later on, we went over how he and Motoko Baba met. Motoko would become his wife until he died, and she also would become a co-promoter, pretty much, of All Japan Pro Wrestling, playing the bad cop role to Baba's good cop. But don't worry, you will get very deeply into that later on. After pitching for the Yomiuri Giants for 5 seasons, Baba would become one of Rikidozan's first kind of disciples, alongside Inoki, the younger Inoki, for JWA. And Baba would become Rikidozan's golden ace and soon send him over to the Great Togo, hook up with the Great Togo to work all over the US and Canada regularly in the early 60s. We also talked about Baba taking on the likes of Buddy Rogers, Bruno Sammartino, Lou Thez, Classy Freddie Blassie, and we talked about Baba the Barefoot Heel in New York, Baba the Giant, who'd go on to work 16 consecutive Madison Square Garden shows back in the day. We also talked about his important relationship with Fred Atkins in Toronto towards the end. So that's a lot. We haven't really started yet, so strap in. If you have questions or comments, hit us up via Twitter. I'm at Justin M. Knipper, Knipper on Twitter, and Fumi is at Fumihiko Dayo on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get into part one of Shohei Giant Baba. We finished with Inoki last week, and we're going to start with Giant Baba today. So I was thinking where to start. I wanted to ask you, when did Shohei Baba start becoming a giant? Like, when did he start getting really large?
Yeah, just like Antonio Inoki, Giant Baba's career or his life's been pretty well documented. Books and books have been written, and he had his own autobiographies, more than one, and books and books have been written on Giant Baba in general. And yeah, his life has been pretty well documented. And in his own book, he said that he started growing big when he was fifth grade.
Okay, so
it means like a 10 or 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And okay, he was born in 1938, January 23rd, 1938. Before I forget, people who watch preview of this episode, your background is really interesting.
That's right. We share the same birthday, Giant Baba and I. He was not 1930. I was not born in 1938, but we do share January 23rd. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so he was born 1938.
Mm-hmm.
And so for younger listeners out there, it's like 1938 sounds ancient, But yeah, so
So
There
he was
was
a
a war.
child of World War II.
Yeah, well, the war was over in 1945, so he would have been still what, 7, 8? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, years old. And he grew up in the countryside of Niigata, so the bomb wasn't hit or anything like that.
hmm
Yeah.
Niigata is a kind of a mountainous area. It's famous for skiing.
Yeah, it snows. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. And grew up as an athlete naturally. And he played baseball and basketball and he ran, but he couldn't find his shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on, that big size 16 big boot was, his early finish in wrestling. But in Japan, it was like a jurokumon, Japanese, like scale of it, but actually it was size 16 American shoes.
Mm-hmm.
The size 16 is really big, huh?
That's gigantic. Yeah.
But yeah, naturally he couldn't find shoes that'll fit as a kid, and he almost gave up on any athletics, because there's no tennis shoes or sneakers that he can fit. But upon ninth grade or so, that this somebody is a kind of almost a legend, but his baseball coach ordered the special shoes for him so he could play baseball.
Hmm.
And you know how big high school baseball is in Japan?
I would compare it to, I guess, like college football or college basketball in the States. It's a national, it's especially the
It's
big
a
game in
culture.
Osaka. Yeah.
Koshien, right?
Yeah, it's massive. People
Right.
crying, and it's just so it's maybe
Yeah,
is
well,
it the biggest event, the sporting event of the year usually in
in
Japan?
high school level, yes, or every summer, like a summer story. Every summer, new star is born to be
Right.
drafted into professional baseball the following year or something.
Like Mr. Otani, who is playing in the States now.
Right. Oh, everybody, Ichiro, Matsui, all these people, yeah, played high school baseball. Anyhow, he was baseball player and the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he entered 1954, one of those high school championship, but he didn't make it to the Osaka Koshien. But he was a 11th grade high school pitcher when he was just 16. Okay. And he didn't make it to the final. So he didn't go to the Koshien, the national championship. But the giant scout came to him. See, baseball, NBP, all right, Nippon Professional Baseball League didn't start the draft until 1965. And when Baba was in high school, there was no such thing as draft. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants, to make a long story short, the Giant scout came over to Baba's house and signed him when he was just 16, before his 17th birthday, 11th grade. He didn't even finish high school all the way to 12th grade. He
Wow.
went straight to Giants camp the following year, 1955, right when he turned 17. So yeah, he was very promising baseball pitcher. He was just as tall then, and he was signed by Giants. Giants is like a New York Yankees, right? It's like the biggest professional baseball team in Japan. So he was like a sports elite. And he was signed and played 5 seasons with Giants pitcher. 1955, 56, 57, 56, 59. Yes, 5 seasons he played. But he didn't play really all that well. He only played 3 major games in all of 7 innings, and the batter 26 batters, and all these. See, baseball statistics is such that his record is still in the NBP official record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to this day. But for 5 seasons he played for Giants, but he was cut at the end of 1959 season and went into Taiyo Wales spring camp. Taiyo Wales is Yokohama Bay Stars now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so he went into Wales. Wales is such a name for a baseball team, huh?
Not what you think of when you think of baseball, but yeah. Hey,
With the Hiroshima Carp.
yeah, the carp, but the carp is the fish. That's
or the Habara Tokyo Yakult Swallows. Kind of cute.
But those have like a more significance. Like the carps is what I always see in Japan. It's called Boys' Day when they like hang the
right. Yeah, it's
nylon
fish,
carps.
Yeah.
So in the context of Japan, I think it makes more sense. But if you don't know any of that, it just seems kind of random to an outsider.
Yeah, so it's not St. Louis Cardinals or anything like that,
Right. I mean, Cardinals isn't really anything.
Right.
Neither here nor there.
Oh, the Dodgers. There's so many. I mean, the baseball is the unique naming, and it's his own culture. And you have after young Baba, 21-year-old Giant Baba was cut from Giants after 5 seasons. He was traded to the Taiyo Whales in the spring camp of 1959 after the season. That's when he had this bathroom accident. He tripped and cut his left elbow, and then cut the major artery or something. And the legend says he hurt his right arm or right hand, therefore he couldn't pitch anymore. But as an official record, Baba himself talks about it in his autobiography. But it was left elbow he got cut, and the cut the major arteries. See, the legend says the right arm was hurt, therefore he couldn't pitch anymore. He gave up baseball. But in the official account, that his left elbow was the one that got hurt. Okay, and the reason he had to give up the baseball was that because he cut the major arteries and nerves on his left elbow, his middle finger and the ring finger was bent permanently, and he couldn't hold the baseball gloves anymore.
Ah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So it wasn't exactly about pitching, but it did affect his career.
Yeah.
It just wasn't officially accurate when it came out, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, the story always, a lot of the stories say he hurt his right arm, therefore he couldn't pitch anymore, and then gave up baseball altogether. It was left elbow who got permanently damaged. So that's to correct the legend. But the Baba talks about it in his autobiography. But the age 21 and turned 22 in 1960, that this is how he became professional wrestler, including some legends, that there are a few different versions of stories how he became professional wrestler. One account that previous year that he already had met Ricky Dawson, and Ricky Dawson told him, come to wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another story, there's a newspaper journalist that had worked as a middleman, that had young Baba and Ricky Dawson meet someplace in Tokyo and had a meeting to become a wrestler. And his autobiography, spring of 1960, he went to Ricky Dawson's Nipponbashi dojo to meet him, on his own. But when he went to Ricky Dawson's wrestling dojo, Ricky Dawson wasn't there because he was touring he had this 6-week tour in Brazil, where he met young 17-year-old Antonio Inoki and discovered him. But in the meantime, Ricky Dawson, Giant Baba, Shohei Baba, on his own, went to Ricky Dawson's dojo to just, to see their practice and workout and all these things, and meet with Ricky Dawson. But Ricky Dawson wasn't there because of this tour in Brazil. So he went home. So that wasn't the day. But in April 11th, it's an official date in record, okay? April 11th in 1960, with this big press conference, Ricky Dawson came back from 6-week Brazil tour. He introduced 2 giant rookies. One, Shohei Baba, former baseball player. One, 17-year-old tracks, the discus or shot putter star in Brazil. Kanji Inoki, 17-year-old. Two rookie were introduced together at this press conference. So the story already started that day.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me?
And they're kind of like the sons or the princes of Rikidozan, who's the king at the time.
Yeah, but I think Rikidozan was looking at Baba as a golden rookie you can make money with. Whereas Antonio Inoki, 17-year-old, relatively unknown kid, and also was introduced as Nisei, Brazilian-born Japanese descent.
Mm-hmm.
This
Second
kid
generation.
No, he was born in Japan, and born and raised in Japan, and he, with his family, migrated to Brazil to start a coffee farm or something. And in age 14, 15, 17, for 3 years, he was just there. But spoke Portuguese, of course. But Inoki, right from the beginning, he was introduced as he's half Brazilian and half Japanese. And this kid doesn't speak Japanese. So he wasn't even allowed to speak Japanese in front of the public. That's like a mysterious beginning, like almost a fictitious story to start with. But whereas Giant Baba was introduced to press as this guy, probably many of you know, he's a former Yomiuri Giants baseball player, and he was a Giant pitcher. He's going to start. And that was April 11th of 1960. And same day, those Baba and Inoki were introduced to public. Then September 30th of same year, both Baba and not Antonio Inoki yet, Kanji Inoki and Shohei Baba, they both debuted the same day at the Taito Taikan, the Tokyo Spot Show. They call it Spot Show. Then, any shows without TV, they used to call it Spot Show or the live event or whatever, that they debuted. But the video footage doesn't exist, okay? Oh, of course, the rookie debut match. Inoki lost to Kintaro Oki, well known as Kintaro Oki, but he was from Korea. His real name is Kim Il. He beat 17-year-old Inoki with his arm lock, whereas the Shohei Baba beat Katsura Hama or Yonetaro Tanaka with pretty much just the one-sided, like inherent, like almost like TV match from your 80s America match that the Baba beat some, washed up veteran so easily that he makes good debut.
NFL Sunday Ticket is now on YouTube and YouTube TV, which means that it just got easier to be an NFL fan, even if you live far away. Like maybe you like the Bears, but you're hibernating in Panthers territory. But with NFL Sunday Ticket, your out-of-market team is never more than a short distance away. Specifically, the distance from you to your remote control. NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to youtube.com/presale to get $50 off.
Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends 9/19. No refund. Subscription auto renews.
What's up? It's Kaylee Cuoco. When it comes to travel, we all have a happy place. I just went to my happy place. I just went to Maui, and it was truly amazing. Priceline has always been about getting you to your happy place for a happy price with deals you really can't find anywhere else. Like up to 60% off select hotels in Costa Rica or 5-star hotels for 2-star prices in Cabo.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Are you with me?
Baba came in with sort of an advantage. They weren't the same age. They were similar ages. He was a little
5 years, always 5 years older.
But
Baba being 22 and Inoki 17.
But Baba also had the experience performing and playing sports in front of people.
Yeah. What's similar was that Baba was already a professional athlete when he was 17 as a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And had 5 seasons already, and he was already 22. See, when you was 22 and when you're 17, there's a big difference in 5 years.
日本のリスナーの皆さん、いつも英語で聞いてくださってありがとうございます。すみません。日本語でなくて申し訳ありませんね。もしもよろしかったら Spotify、Apple、Downcast などのご利用のプラットフォームでファイキンメディアネットワークごとご登録いただけると助かります。ありがとうございます。 Hi, everyone. If you haven't already, please, if you can, subscribe to the Fight Game Media Network feed on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Downcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, because it really helps us out. That's all you got to do. And if you're really feeling frisky, go over to patreon.com/FightGameMedia. So you have the entire archive of all of our episodes. Write that down. Plus all the archives of all of our other awesome shows that we've been putting out for a year right now. So, okay, quick plug. Back to the show. Yeah. So we were talking about Baba and Inoki and the age difference between them and how it kind of colored the relationship between the two.
Right from the beginning. Yeah, 5-year difference. 22-year-old Shohei Baba and 17-year-old Kanji Inoki then. So Inoki was the one who was looking at Baba like, this guy's going to be my rival. Whereas Baba didn't really look at Inoki as like he didn't really be too conscious about it. He just gave up his 5-year professional baseball or Giants career and wanted to choose wrestling because his parent or mother came to Tokyo and asked him to go back to Niigata to do his vegetable farm in the market. And the 22-year-old Baba wasn't about to go home then.
Right.
And also he writes that on his autobiography that he's just too ambitious and also going back to hometown, like you go home like a failure, right?
Yeah.
And then also with his size, so much like Under the Giant story that on Under the Giant side that the people pretty much openly talk about acromegaly, that he had this body physical condition to grow so big, genetically. And Baba's part, that part hasn't been really emphasized, but obviously being that big, right? And all these legends come with it, that the shoes doesn't fit, or he never found clothes that fits, or that he was the biggest boy, always biggest boy in town or school, or just being looked at. And being big became his somewhat a complex, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's every day he has to deal with all this stuff that other people don't have to deal with.
And then get in a train or get on the bus or go to regular room or eat anything. Yeah, anything. Or he's being looked at or become very famous boy in his hometown, right?
Shopping for clothes.
Going
everything. Overseas.
Right. Yeah, well, before that, I mean, as a kid even.
As a kid,
or the teenage. Or going to baseball for 5 seasons, but he didn't really make it as a big, huge baseball superstar, But he was pretty much semi-famous, being so tall and big, and the Giants pitcher, Giant kid pitching for Giants, And the movie company approached him in the meantime to become an actor, and also he had his other dreams to be working for a publishing company that he'll become a book writer or book editor or something, and also had another dream of becoming a travel agent. You know what I'm saying? So
like
he had
HIS?
not that, but in the late 50s into 1960s, traveling overseas on the airplane was like it's a big deal, right?
Right. It was. There's so much work to do, so it had to be its own standalone industry.
Yeah. And then he had his other dream of becoming a travel agent and run the company as such, and all these things. He was too young and too ambitious to go back to Niigata, and that is why I kind of believe that one of the theories that sometimes at the end of 1959 or the early 1960, that Ricky Dawson approached him. Why don't you to be a wrestler, right? But this is I don't know why, but there's always been quite a few different theories as to how he became professional wrestler. That Ricky Dawson and Baba must have met to get the idea. Yeah. And there's always news, journalist story that this famous sport writer approached both Baba and Rikidozan to make this happen. And one account, Giant Baba's own autobiography, is insisting that he went to Rikidozan's dojo in spring of 1960 on his own. So that, yeah, maybe Giant Baba and this sport journalist had a falling out. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people want to take credit who discovered Giant Baba.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So the myth kind of remains. But all in all, April 11th of 1960 at Rikidozan's dojo, young 22-year-old Shohei Baba and young 17-year-old Kanji Inoki were both introduced as rookies and got picture taken. That photo still exists to this day. And both not Giant Baba, I should say Shohei Baba and young Kanji Inoki both debuted the same day, September 30th. Yeah.
September 30th
of 1960. That was their first match. And their last match, Inoki's last match, April 1998, Baba's last match, December 1998. So they had the same length of wrestling career, active wrestling career too. Is that
Pretty
interesting?
amazing. Yeah, it's.
Oh God,
I can't think of any other situation in pro wrestling where it's where these two
parallels.
are so connected. I mean, even to the day.
Yeah, and then one style of wrestling. So we in Japanese wrestling industry, we always had Baba school of professional wrestling, Inoki school of professional wrestling. They conducted business so differently, not because they're rival, but the philosophies were different.
The philosophy,
and the way they looked at America as of course, the Mecca, or that anything to do with professional wrestling, you have to have strong connection with America, right? Yeah, because it's a sport entertainment genre business that came to Japan after the war, and Rikidozan was post-war, Japanese national hero, and also the very first television hero. Yeah. And,
actually, we should mention the day we're recording this. It's a couple days past, but it was a pro wrestling day in Japan. The Rikidozan's match with the Sharp Brothers.
Yeah. Rikidozan and Masahiko Kimura against Sharp Brothers. Interestingly enough, that the Japanese professional wrestling started was tag team match instead of single competition. See, when you think about important wrestling match, you always single match, right? Yeah, like a title match.
Right.
Or the big superstar against big superstar. But interestingly enough, in Japanese public, professional wrestling was introduced as tag team match. And the concept of somebody jobbing, right? King of Judo, then Masahiko Kimura was the one taking fall. And same 1954, the same year, okay, Wrestling Day was that a couple of days ago. Yes, we still have that in calendar. It was beginning of Japanese pro wrestling, professional wrestling, and also basically beginning of television culture. It's always been the killer content of television. Television made wrestling famous, and professional wrestling made television famous. Yeah, a lot of people bought first TV set so they can watch wrestling. But a lot like 1950s, 1948, 1950s Gorgeous George, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So again, it parallels. Yeah.
Now I have a question for you, Fumi. I wanted to ask, at around this time when Baba was getting started, and like you were saying in 54 and onwards, TV was growing so quickly. It was getting so popular with everyone, and with wrestling as well. Was Baba a fan? Was he a fan of pro wrestling at the time, or was he just coming
I'm sure he watched it, but he was so focused when you were 17, 18, 19, 20 years old that you were already a baseball, that the Giants pitcher, right? That I'm sure he watched wrestling, but never really thought him becoming one, And I have to point out, when he was 17, the first, spring camp, 1957, then probably, that was the spring baseball training spring camp where Shohei Baba met Motoko.
Okay.
17-year-old Shohei Baba and 15-year-old Motoko already met during the spring camp in Akashi, Kobe. That's Motoko's hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents were friends with, rich parents were friends with baseball players. The baseball player came to, their house to eat or something, and rookie Giant Baba was among those baseball players who came to Motoko's parents' house to sit down and eat. So there was a connection. And Baba's first impression, already, Motoko made a handmade slipper for Shohei Baba because it was famous that his feet are so big that no shoes would fit. And walking, you've been to Japan, that you take off your shoes when you come into Japanese home.
It's an even bigger issue. It's not. I mean, of course, everywhere we take off our shoes, but it's everyday life. You're not
in Japan.
inside,
You take your shoes off.
You 100%. It's muscle memory. You shouldn't even be thinking about it. Those shoes should be off as soon as they're in the door because it's going to be a big deal if it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, because you step up. It's not on the same level. You step up into somebody's house. It's like about a foot high, right? Higher, an entrance. And I keep saying Jan, but it's a Shohei Baba, young 17-year-old Shohei Baba. You take his shoes off, then walk into Motoko's parents' house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that was when they met, 17-year-old Shohei Baba and 15-year-old Motoko. And Motoko prepared her handmade slipper for Shohei.
He's like a reverse Cinderella.
Yeah. But they kept in touch, but they didn't become couple for another couple, 3-4 years. But I'll get to that, okay? Yeah. Anyhow, but Baba's career starts, okay, in 1960, and summer of 1961. Only 1 year later, he was sent to America already.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. So when you say, most of the American wrestling fan even know that what do you call that? That they send young, promising, tomorrow's star to abroad.
When you go on an excursion.
Learning
excursion.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like that for Baba's case. He was booked by Great Togo in California. They already made plan to have him headline all over America. Rookie though, but he was not there to, learn or pick up the trade or, he was booked as like a star wrestler already then. He didn't go to America all by himself. He had Yukio Suzuki, another rookie, Mammoth Suzuki, and Yoshino Sato with him. But they went to different, separate paths. But Shohei Baba, or I should say Baba the Giant, in New York, he was booked and managed by Great Togo. Great Togo, like a big time heel from California. Your stereotype Japanese post-war heel, smiling and bowing and salt throwing and sneak attacking, the Pearl Harbor kind of heel. I mean, like a stereotypical Japanese heel, right? But he acted as a manager. He looked at Baba and saw money, right? So he's Baba the Giant's booking was handled much like Under the Giant 10, 15 years later. It wouldn't be booked in one territory, but you travel from territory to territory. You headline cards. Yeah.
So Great Togo, was he an American? Was he?
He's an American, second generation. Yeah.
Okay, so
his parent,
he spoke English
of course, he's an American citizen. Great Togo's parents came from Okayama, Japan. They migrated
from Kansai area.
Yeah, from like a 1920s or something, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but there was an experience. President Biden just talked about just the other day. There was concentration camp during the war, right?
Right.
if you looked like Japanese, you'd be in camp. I mean, there was a
Internment
product
camp,
of
yeah.
wartime. Yeah, product of wartime. Great Togo's parents and himself experienced that because you look like Japanese, and you are carrying Japanese culture. But Great Togo himself was born and raised in America. Yeah.
Mhm. And so at this time, so like you said, he wasn't being brought, Baba, that is, he wasn't being
Right.
brought in to learn how to become a star. He was brought in to get over because he already had a bit of experience as an athlete. He was a giant.
and also 1 year experience as a wrestler in Japan.
Right.
And he was like marketable enough to be booked all over different territories.
Sure. Everyone loves a giant.
Yeah. So it was that he actually toured America before there was such thing as WWE, or I should say Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF. WWF wouldn't start until 1963. Bruno Sammartino against Buddy Rogers, right?
Mhm.
But he was touring New York area before WWF was there. But the promoter was Vince McMahon Sr. I should say Vincent James McMahon, father of today's Vince McMahon.
So he wasn't involved with the NWA initially then?
NWA was like in alliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the different territory had a membership of NWA. NWA was an entity of, but like clusters of a whole bunch of, local or regional promoters, that you become member of NWA. Therefore, you share World Heavyweight Champion, like Luthes, or Buddy Rogers, Pat O'Connor. They traveled one territory to another territory to defend their World Heavyweight title. I'll get to that. But the Giant Baba toured, the New York, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, East Coast area where before WWF, of course, before WWE, that they were running much like WWF will become, okay? Vince McMahon Sr.'s territory. And they were running monthly extravaganza at Madison Square Garden run by Vince Sr. at the time. Does that make sense? Vince Sr. started out as Washington, D.C.'s promoter. That's why his first company was called Capital Wrestling Promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he was also a promoter of Madison Square Garden. There was like a historically, back in 1870s, into 1900 to 1910s and 1920s, different promoters ran Madison Square Garden. By then, 1950s, it was Vince McMahon Sr. Yeah. So what's interesting is, though, that Shohei Baba, before, in a few weeks, he would become Baba the Giant. He would he would arrive in America July 1st of 1961. Okay. The day before that, June 30th, Buddy Rogers, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, beat Pat O'Connor to become NWA World Heavyweight Champion at Comiskey Park in Chicago. So while Giant Baba was traveling, making his first tour, Buddy Rogers was a world champion.
Okay.
And young Baba the Giant had 8 title match against Buddy Rogers all over America.
Wow. Right out, 2 years into his career.
He was already headlining America. Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard it's not baseball, it's not NFL football, so it's it's all up to a private historians, that how they find these wrestling results, and there were a wrestling historian in America who did all kinds of research that how Giant Baba traveled, and there was a 8 title match between Giant Baba and Buddy Rogers between year 61 into 62.
Now, for the most part, what were the types of finishes that they were doing with these matches?
Buddy Rogers going over. Yeah.
Clean, or was it did
Oh, that
Baba
is
lose?
so hard to. Yeah, it's like I couldn't find the detailed results, but there's like a whole bunch of the historians, the legendary wrestling historians that came way before us. you
Mm.
know, there are people who did all the newspaper clipping collections and made their own results and records and all these things. I respect that, but it's so hard to find detailed finish on these accounts. But seemingly there were 8 title matches between Buddy Rogers and Giant Baba the Giant that year, 61 into 62. In New York area, so see, Baba the Giant or Shohei Baba, he spent 1 year in 4 months period in mainland America, until that means like spring of 1962 then. September of 61 to sometime spring of 1962. 1 year and 4 months period, Baba the Giant traveled all over the place. And also in between, this is a record. Baba the Giant worked 16 consecutive months at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
See, now that today's WWE landscape, Madison Square Garden once a month big show isn't much of a big deal, right?
Now it's, I think, once a year, maybe, or twice a year.
Yeah, right. But all the way till like 1980s, the once a month Madison Square Garden thing was a huge deal. It was like a premiere red carpet of introducing a new title match. Bruno Sammartino against somebody, or Pedro Morales or somebody, all the way to Bob Backlund era, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you have new challenger, and then challenge first match, probably challenger go over and then count out finish. And second, meeting at the Madison Square Garden, usually either double count out or the no contest, no finish. And the third month, the babyface champion, if it's Sammartino or Pedro Morales or Bob Backlund for that matter, the third meeting, they settle the score. They were doing that formula for a long time. And Madison Square Garden match was your premiere, then the same matchup, same card, whether it's, I don't know, the Bob Backlund against Dom Rock or somebody, that you start from Madison Square Garden and you go on to Baltimore, the Washington, D.C., or Philadelphia or Maryland, they basically run same match around the horn in the East Coast area.
Mm-hmm.
And Baba worked 16 consecutive Madison Square Garden match and close to main event status.
That's a big deal. I mean, like you said, the MSG shows where if you were in the East Coast in New York, that's where you go to see the big stars. That's where all that's what everything was happening on the East Coast. And for him to 16 in a row, that's quite a lot especially for
16
somebody.
16 months in a row, 14 months in a row. Whether it's he had single match against people like Antonino Rocca, young Bruno Sammartino before he was WWF champion, big babyface Bobo Brazil, or somebody like Edouard Carpentier,
another giant,
or Killer Kowalski. Yeah.
So
he
Gene Kiniski? Did he have any?
Killer Kowalski.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Baba later on had the program against Gene Kiniski, yes. So Baba always had the superstar single match lineup already the second year in.
What was the reception at MSG for the most part? Where it was people support him?
Obviously, I wasn't there.
Well, I mean, in general, when you read about it, was he perceived like a heel? Was he like a babyface giant? Like
heel.
Oh, he was a heel.
Yeah, he was a heel. Japanese.
Okay.
Well, I think all through 60s to 70s, even way into 80s, Japanese wrestler meant heel right away.
Right
off the bat. And he was a giant heel at that. And if you have Greg Togo, somebody like Greg Togo in your corner, of course you're a heel.
Sure.
Yeah, or the single match against Luthes, yeah, you're a heel.
In New York especially, I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so Baba the Giant had single match program against real superstar Antonino Rocca, right? And Italian hero Bruno Sammartino, African hero Bobo Brazil, French Canadian hero Edouard Carpentier. Oh, Kirakowski, it sounds like heel, but they had single matches too. So those were like existing superstars, right? At the time. So Giant Baba all never had first match position.
He kind of came in with an advantage compared with Inoki, you could say.
Yeah, like Andre the Giant before there was Andre the Giant.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you looked at, 80s and 90s Baba's videos, it didn't look as much athletic, but you have to imagine, 23, 24-year-old Giant Baba, young Giant Baba, very athletic. And some black and white film exists. Things like Baba the Giant against people like Hans Schmidt, German heel. So that version of Baba must be babyface, huh?
Must
so it's
have
really
been,
hard to it's so really hard to see that either Baba was labeled as heel or babyface. Probably depends on where he went. Because between these East Coast tours, he every couple 3 months he had this Chicago International Amphitheater big match lineup too. Another wrestling capital of America at the time.
Definitely.
Yeah, Chicago, International Amphitheater. And also Montreal was a huge wrestling market. And also the Columbus, Ohio, and Detroit, the Detroit Olympia building doesn't exist anymore, but those are the big, huge event, big match, stop that the Giant Baba was making. Probably only worked big shows, huh?
Seems like it. Seems like he came in and he was more or less a headline or like an upper card guy. And
and then
against
seems
the big stars
like
of the time.
NWA promoters shared Baba's marketability or something, that much like later on Under the Giant, that you travel from one territory to another and the Baba the Giant come in, that's your big show. Yeah. And so the title that the body, for instance, Baba Buddy Rogers title match took place in places like Philadelphia, Ohio, Baltimore, in different places. It could be same match, right?
Sure.
I mean, in today's understanding of this business, and that there was, no internet or not even the fax, that the news traveled very slow then. Not just wrestling, but everything.
So it didn't come off like it was the same match every night. It was fresh.
And also cable TV, such as cable TV thing, wouldn't come out until 1980s. And traditionally, main event wrestling was never televised there around that time period.
Right.
You have to go to the building to watch that extravaganza.
It was very special, more special than
going to live event. Yeah. And also from Baba's book, looks like he drove all over the place instead of flying.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. He didn't fly. He was he traveled around the States
on his Lincoln Continental.
Way. Lincoln Continental. Yeah. Roomy.
Yeah. So was the original Sheik, or people like Dick the Bruiser, or the old-fashioned wrestler promoters. They all drove all over the country. All the way to people like Harley Race. Well, later, early Harley Race, of course, traveled on the plane, first class. But old-fashioned wrestler always drove across the country. Yeah.
That was the style. That was the way.
Yeah, because there was that in one of the Baba's essay, there was a time after Madison Square Garden match, he got on his car and drove down to Florida. Oh my gosh, how long, right?
It's got to be at least 10, 12 hours.
Or a day and a half.
At least, yeah.
That's
pretty adventurous.
We have to romanticize that in early 60s into 70s, more people drove across the country, and you make stop at motels or you eat at restaurant and you just drive endless miles on this, nothing but freeways. That's very America.
Route 66.
I guess, yeah. So Baba lived that, period of time and became very international minded person. And also he must have learned the language then.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure he had to have.
Mm-hmm.
And this was probably he didn't, like you said earlier, he didn't go to university after high school. He didn't even finish high school, but this was kind of like his college education, you could say.
Yeah, and then studying abroad, huh?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
learning business too. And also learned his mannerism and his dignified way of doing business, like what like a handshake meant between wrestlers.
Did
No,
Bob? Oh,
yeah.
so go ahead. Go. Oh, I was going to ask, did Baba have any, as time went on, as he kept going to the States, did he have any types of mentor in America or anybody that worked
I'll
with
get to
him?
that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll get to that. After 1 year and 4 months in East Coast area and also Midwest area, including places like Chicago and Detroit and all that, Ohio, he had 3 months period in LA, Los Angeles, before he came back to Japan for the first time. It was WWA in Los Angeles, Juice Strombers, WWA. A lot of people say it's a World Wrestling Association or Alliance, and some logo says Worldwide Wrestling Associates, but we always called it WWA. It's like a spin-off of Luther's belt. In 1957, there was a NWA split, right? That in Chicago, Edward Carpentier beat Luthez. And in Chicago and Montreal, Edward Carpentier was recognized as world heavyweight champion. In the other territory, NWA territory, Luthez kept traveling as a champion. Okay. And Luthez dropped the belt in Boston to Killer Kowalski. Another world heavyweight championship was, created. In LA in 1961, I believe, Luthez dropped the title to Freddie Blassie. Therefore, WWE was created, and he's that. It's just different lineage of world heavyweight title. Wherever Luthez went, he went into territory as world heavyweight champion or international heavyweight champion, whether it's NWA or not. When Luthez comes in, he is world heavyweight champion. Are you with me?
And
therefore, WWA was created in West Coast, and it was a pretty big territory. That actually Ricky Dawson pretty much affiliated with California, right, all through his career. See, the St. Louis, Missouri, or Madison Square Garden, New York City was too far, almost too far away in 1960s. Most of the American superstars in that period came from California or Hawaii.
Was that the belt? Is that the belt that Rikidozan brought back, or he shot with the press, the WWA belt, that kind of thin? One?
The beating Freddie Blassie, and there was the 1962 program. Rikidozan went to LA Olympic Auditorium and beat Freddie Blassie to become champion and brought the title back. And Freddie Blassie came to Japan, and the title defense was made, and Rikidozan defended the title. And following month, Rikidozan went back to States, and another matchup, Freddie Blassie against Rikidozan at Olympic Auditorium, blood stoppage, and the referee called the match. Therefore, the title was back to Freddie Blassie, and Rikidozan didn't really lose clean in the middle of the match, in middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, but lost the title. There was a program, but the WWA was world heavyweight title in Japan for a period of time. The name NWA was never mentioned. Although 1957, in the middle of a controversy, Luthez came to Japan for the first time, and they had the Luthez against Rikidozan match. World did not mention NWA, but world heavyweight title match at the Korakuen Stadium, 97. But back to this WWA thing that Baba spent 3-4 months in spring of 1962 and had a program against Freddie Blassie and Dick Baya Destroyer. At the time, WWE World title was always, going back and forth between Freddie Blassie and the Destroyer. Yeah. And the Baba challenged Destroyer's WWE title in Los Angeles, the Bakersfield, San Diego, and whatnot. It's California, territory. Then came back to Japan. So first trip was like 1 month and 8 months. He never came back for almost 2-year period. Then made debut back as Giant Baba officially. No Shohei Baba from that point on. 1963.
So only a few years into his career, this is where he made that big transformation when he came back.
Yeah, March 17th, 1963 to be exact. That the 5th annual World League Tour, the spring, singles tournament tradition. Now it's, Champion Carnival in All Japan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same idea. Every spring, IWGP tournament for that matter. Yeah. Every spring there was a big, huge single tournament called World League Championship Tournament. And that was a 5th annual that Baba came back as a big star. Rikidozan's still there though, okay? So he came in and had, there was, at Haneda Airport, before Narita Airport, okay? There was a big press conference that Rikidozan welcoming Giant Baba's, return and announcing that the Giant Baba will be participating in the 5th annual World League tournament, right? And there was 1 year and 8 months period. It was announced Giant Baba had 502 matches against people like Barry Rogers, Antonino Rocca, the Bruno Sammartino, the Killer Kowalski, the Bobo Brazil, the Haystack Calhoun, all these things in only last 5 matches. Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Rikidozan's return, years ago, that Rikidozan had 260 matches and only lost to Leon Amelini and Tom Rice and Fred Atkins. That's it. And all the tag team, my partner lost. Something like that. So Baba, more for that matter, Rikidozan announced that this Giant Baba had 502 matches and only lost handful matches. He's a big, huge superstar. And with my research, this 1 year and 8 months period, I think Baba only had about 390 matches instead of 502 matches. But that's a trivia thing, and I don't know if my research is accurate enough, But all in all, Giant Baba had this golden tour in America for 1 year and 8 months period, and always headlined. And years later, Inoki went to the LA, Oregon, Tennessee, and Kansas a little bit, Houston a little bit, but never really headlined, right? And it wasn't the big territory like Madison Square Garden or Montreal. Baba traveled big territories, whereas Inoki, went in wherever they would take him,
And he wasn't main eventing these shows either. He was more of
at the time, right. And Baba always headlined. And also, I think that this first 1 year and 8 months period, he really started studying how to run wrestling show, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As a promoter, as a booker, or how to make personal connection with headliners, and how important handshakes are when you don't have written contracts like today's business.
So 1963 was also the year that Rikidozan passed away.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Baba stayed about 6 months, and the fall, I think October or November of this 1963, he went back to another long tour to America.
How long was that? That was maybe 6 months again?
And 7, 8 months, yeah.
Okay.
Until spring of 64. Right. He went to Ontario, Canada this time. That's his home base was Ontario, Canada, and he stayed with his mentor Fred Atkins. Yeah, Fred Atkins was actually not on record, but I believe Fred Atkins was really, really close with Rikidozan.
I see.
Yeah, in Rikidozan's touring photos with Great Togo and other people in like in American like photos we see now, Fred Atkins in the picture already. I mean,
Oh,
for
okay.
some reason, yeah. So he acted as Baba's manager and also was coach of Baba.
Hmm.
And Baba did not, wasn't staying in the hotel. This second trip back to America, well, Canada this time, but Ontario, Canada, Baba was staying with Fred Atkins at his cabin in Lake Ontario.
Pretty different
And
lifestyle from Tokyo, huh?
right. But he was like Fred Atkins was a big time coach. They make you work out like a football coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Baba was an athlete, big
Yeah.
athlete.
I mean, the people. Yeah, of course, we can go on Google or YouTube, and you can see he was in great shape for his size and the
Oh
condition
yeah,
he was
the
in.
60s match. I mean, he moved well.
Super.
Yeah. I mean, people have this strong Baba's, like this, video image of 80s into 90s, like being old but never retired kind of thing, and also having
Yeah.
like a 6-man tag team situation every
Comedy
night, almost
matches,
comic.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Because it was Baba's philosophy: professional wrestlers don't retire. You know what I'm saying? You're the icon.
Right.
You will be in front of the audience. Whereas Antonio Inoki, even aged Antonio Inoki, had to headline until the end. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, it's a different philosophy to that. Now back to this Fred Atkins. Kind of useless trivia, but Fred Atkins trained Tiger Jeet Singh and late 70s Adrian Adonis. Interesting, huh?
Those are all pretty important figures in
in professional wrestling. Yep. And Fred Atkins, never had wrestling school like you have now. Wrestling school, you sign up and pay $2,000 or something, and you come in like, kind of like you kind of learn, right?
Sure.
Old-fashioned professional wrestler never had those wrestling school, or didn't even take trainees unless you were like recognized as somebody or somebody promising. Rikidozan basically asked Fred Atkins to take Baba and train him again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was December of 1963. Baba was already in Ontario, Canada. Like we said, news traveled so slow, right?
Right.
That the news of Rikidozan passing came from Fred Atkins 3 days later.
Oh.
Somebody from Japan got the news and told Great Togo, right? And Great Togo called Fred Atkins. And Baba got the news from Fred Atkins. So young, the 25-year-old Baba will have to, sit down and think, should I go home now or should I stay? Right? And Great Togo told Giant Baba at the time, it was said, that don't go back to Japan. Wrestling business will die after, with Rikidozan passing. There's no, the landscape will be different. That the wrestling will probably won't be around too long. Without Rikidozan, wrestling business in Japan will die. Stay in Japan. Stay in America. That's what Great Togo told Baba. And I think at the time, Great Togo promised Giant Baba NWA World Heavyweight Champion run, and he wanted to become manager.
Mm-hmm.
That the NWA World Heavyweight Champion was almost like an election between NWA promoters who they will choose to become your World Heavyweight Champion. Therefore, all the local territory within America can share that World Heavyweight Champion, right? And share that purse too. Yeah, local territory like Georgia, Florida, Pensacola, the North and South Carolina, the Tennessee, all these places did not have World Heavyweight Champion. NWA World Heavyweight Champion will come to you maybe three times a year, and when the NWA World Heavyweight Champion come to your town, that's all big extravaganza, right? And I think at the time, NWA had the proposal that let's make Baba the Giant your traveling world champion. And Great Togo wanted to have a big slice of cake too, slice of pie too, right?
Of course.
And and told Giant Baba to stay in America, or make you NWA world champion. And you have at least 1 year run as a champion. So if Baba took that and became NWA World Heavyweight Champion, if that, right, that's all big what if. But he would have 1 year or so run as NWA World Heavyweight Champion in America. But he didn't take that. And he asked Fred Atkins. I think Giant Baba at the time trusted Fred Atkins over Great Togo. Yeah. And Fred Atkins apparently told Baba, "Stay here and think."
Sure.
Yeah. But he kept traveling, and from Ontario, Canada, he still traveled into states. Just like the last time that he worked New York, Ohio, the Philadelphia, the Baltimore, the Boston, the Detroit, all these, the Northeast, Midwest territory as headliner. Then upon his return, he challenged 3 different world heavyweight champions.
Who were
already?
They?
WWF World Champion Bruno Sammartino, NWA World Champion Lou Thesz, and WWA World Champion Freddie Blassie. 3 different title match at the 3 different territories.
3 very different wrestlers too.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But stars, of
big
the time.
stars.
In the prior, to that the first during the first traveling to the States and spent 1 year and 8 months period, he had 8 title match against Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Right, that news never got to Japan because Riki Dozan at the time told the Japanese press not to report it.
What was the reason for that? Yeah.
Because Riki Dozan himself and Freddie Blassie was having WWA World Championship program.
I see.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
That's already political, Yeah. And that's why Buddy Rogers' name is not as big as he should be in Japan. And also, the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers and Antonino Rocca was 2 superstars, American superstars that never came to Japan.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. See, Freddie Blassie, Edouard Carpentier, Lou Thesz, Bruno Sammartino, they all came to Japan. But it was before this exchange of just big time business and American wrestler traveling back and forth time. It was before that. Antonino Rocca was superstar in East Coast area. Never went to Japan. Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, one of the biggest superstars of the time, right? Never came to Japan. Yeah. But upon second time return, Baba had a title match at Madison Square Garden again. I believe it was February of 1964. New WWF World Champion Bruno Sammartino. The title match was curfew ending, I think. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Curfew is that at the time, I think it was well into 70s though, that the show had to stop at 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, there was curfew.
So therefore match ends there. So this is kind of like a very convenient non-finish finish, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Baba had that title match against Bruno Sammartino in New York City, and Olympia in Detroit, I believe. The name of the building is Olympia. That Lou Thesz against Baba title match. Baba didn't win. And then in Olympic Auditorium, Freddie Blassie against Baba, WWA World title match. Not once, but they did that at San Diego, Bakersfield, all kinds that the California area too.
Yeah, all up and down California.
Because that was the territory. But the most important thing was that Baba challenging all 3 different major leagues world championship upon his return was a big deal.
So this was what, 64, 65 now?
64.
64.
Yeah.
So he
spring of 64, he came back to Japan for good. Yeah, to stay.
So he kind of just went from being a rookie to a couple of years later, he was arguably one of the biggest stars in the world.
Yeah.
In the industry, yeah.
Baba chose not to go home right away when he heard the news of Rikidozan passing.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, Inoki was Rikidozan when he passed.
I see.
Yeah, but the Baba was already traveling in America and heard the news that all kinds of news, right? Like Rikidozan passing, but there ain't gonna be any wrestling in Japan anymore. Stay in America. Why don't you get a green card and stay in America forever? Or that he should go back to Japan and probably call it quit and open a travel agent or something. That was another idea Baba had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Imagine that.
Yeah, that too. And also, but he had to come back to Japan the following spring to see what it's like. Because Japan, Nippon Pro Wrestling, JWA, after Rikidozan, was run by 4 wrestlers: Yoshino Sato, Michiaki Yoshimura, Kokichi Endo, and Toyonobori.
Mm-hmm.
4 guys, like a quartet. That they were the 4 wrestlers, all Rikidozan protege. But after Rikidozan passing, those 4 guys were running the company. But they were making just as much money. That's what thing would start going wrong, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. First, Toyonobori get kicked out of the company, and following year, that Toyonobori recruits returning Antonio Inoki and hijacked him in Hawaii to start Tokyo Pro Wrestling. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Baba, all through 64, start headlining, that the Baba and Toyonobori as a tag team champion, Asian tag team champion. And also in year 1965, they revived international heavyweight title, which Rikidozan held until his passing, that they revived and international heavyweight title and had a tournament, and naturally Baba became the champion.
So he
international
came back,
heavyweight, yeah.
And he started to,
Yeah, not the office or promotion or the company side of the business, but he was the ace, that the sole headliner superstar of Japan Pro Wrestling, Nippon Pro Wrestling. I believe it was pretty much happy period for wrestler Baba, because being international champion and Friday night 8 o'clock headliner, primetime wrestling, and now international champion and also a television star. And he was in all kinds of TV, not just wrestling TV, but he was in TV commercial, game show, variety show. Japan is like a variety show heaven, huh?
Sure.
The real stupid, the networks, primetime show they have.
Yeah, late night, kind of like a Saturday Night Live. There's comedy.
Or the Jeopardy quiz show type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he must have been like you could say it's the prime of his in-ring career.
Yeah, and plus 1967 and that 1968, WWF World Champion Bruno Sammartino, then NWA World Champion Gene Kiniski, they 2 years in a row they came over to have single match against Giant Baba, but neither Sammartino or Gene Kiniski defending their WWF title or NWA title. They challenged Baba's international heavyweight champion. So they made it like, for Japanese audience, Baba was the champion defending his title against this American superstar, instead of Baba challenging WWF title or NWA title. Does that make sense?
And it probably gave a lot of legitimacy to Baba and who he was bringing into the crowd in Japan.
And also made the International Heavyweight Championship equal to those American Major Leagues titles.
Mm-hmm. I guess this is what you were talking about with saying Baba represented the establishment, the already established status quo of wrestling in the world, wrestling in North America. And Baba was connected to that. He was an international traveler, the would-be travel agent.
He holds the Rikidozan's international heavyweight title as rightful
the heir. Yeah, he
Yeah.
inherited it from the Rikidozan who passed, and again, I'm sure
Yeah.
that helped
So
with his legitimacy.
rightful choice of your superstar.
And that organic kind of passing of the torch.
A natural babyface in the ring.
Yeah, when we were talking about it earlier, Baba the Giant as a heel, it's really, it's hard for me to look at him as a heel because he doesn't look like a mean person ever. He's just big. He does
but
have that
1963 version of Baba the Giant in America, barefooted, karate chops.
You sent me a picture with it. He was wearing just the trunks and no shoes, no boots.
Yeah, and they walk around New York City with kimono.
Wow.
Yeah. So superstar, but in early 60s, in wrestling ring, in stereotype mentality,
right,
Japanese wrestlers were heels.
So you didn't have to do as much with your personality. It was just
he didn't have to work dirty. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He was.
But that's when he learned the business. Babyface and heels, ethnic heroes like Bruno Sammartino. He was also friends with young Pedro Morales. That is another myth that Pedro Morales was the one who taught Giant Baba how to dropkick.
Yeah, that was from the comic books, right?
Yeah. But there's another couple of different theories. So it was comic book, and there's another story. There's a karate man from in LA karate dojo, not a wrestler, but this man taught Giant Baba how to do the drop kick. And there's just quite a few different stories. A lot of different people want to take credit for it.
He's almost kind of like a legend, like in the state, like a folk hero. Like in the States, we have Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan, yeah, modern day Paul Bunyan, right? Because a lot of people want to take credit. I did this for Baba, I did that for Baba, right? And Baba was very humble, quiet person that he just sat and never really denied it or said yes to it either. And it's like, well, it's up to you, right? But he operated wrestling business like that. His interview was always like sport interview. Now today's wrestlers interview, I want to win. People might laugh, right?
Sure, yeah. but it's the style that's developed over the years. There's a kind of like a template. There's the pro wrestling style interview, whereas I guess you're saying that this is more like it's like you would watch it after a baseball game or a soccer game.
Yeah. But the Baba was that he's like a quiet king, gentleman kind of superstar. And then if you watch Friday night, Channel 4 JWA Nippon Pro Wrestling show, the Baba will have this all year long, Baba against Bruno Sammartino, the Baba against Jin Kaniski, the Baba against Bruiser, the Baba against the Crusher. You have all these top-notch American superstar, one after another, coming in, challenge Baba's international heavyweight title, and Baba wins. I mean, very late 60s to early 70s formula, right? Much like Bruno Sammartino.
When did Baba start wrestling the more maniacal wrestling heels like Abdullah the Butcher or, was that later 70s, on? 70s, okay.
70s, yeah.
So, well, I mean, we can start talking. Next week we're going to have to talk about the 70s run because
okay. Let's end with this one. April of 1967. April of 1967. Now star Antonio Inoki returns to JWA after Tokyo Pro Wrestling went down. That was the year Bi-Platoon was created. Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki tag team. Soon enough, Inoki and Baba, Bi-Platoon. So Baba obviously above, right? Yeah, Bi-Platoon becomes international tag team champion for next 5-year period.
Like a mega team.
Yeah. So, we got to wrap up around here now, huh?
Yeah, let's wrap it up here, and next time we'll pick it up from the late 60s with Bi-Platoon, and then more work with
and
NWA territory.
2 network stations start carrying JWA wrestling, and Baba only appears on Channel 4, and Inoki appears on both Channel 4 and Channel 10. But that made Inoki a single superstar too. And back their wrestling fans' mind, who is actually better, Inoki or Baba? Pretty soon, New Japan and Old Japan.
Yeah, and I'm sure next week we'll have to really start talking about NTV and this also the war between
TBS, 2 different stations. Yeah,
kind of its own rivalry in itself too, and the wrestlers were part of
and then the old farts from JWA promoters that double dipping, right?
Sure, so, yeah. Okay. All right, well, let's wrap it up. So that's just part 1. We have a lot more to go, so don't worry.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so let's see you next week for Fumi. What can we say?
So long from Tokyo.
All right.
Write that down, Fumi Saito. Write that. Write that. Write that. Write that. Write that down, Fumi Saito. Write that down, Fumi Saito. Write that down, Fumi Saito. Write that down, Fumi Saito.
It's playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is really simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less on their projection, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Join Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, available to play in more than 40-plus states, including California and Texas. Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code GOAL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code GOAL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
What is... Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes, I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.